All right, let's jump straight into this explainer. Today, we're taking a bit of a time travel trip. We are heading all the way back to the year 1905, specifically dropping into Kendrick, Idaho. We're going to trace the Brocke family's fascinating journey, starting from the absolutely grueling, backbreaking labor of the autumn harvest, all the way through to the quiet, firelit reflections of a pioneer winter. Honestly, it's just a brilliant look at how families navigated a world that was teetering right on the brink of massive technological change. There's this incredible quote from the family patriarch, Nicholas Brocke. "They're coming, whether we like it or not. New things come, the question is whether you're ready for them." He was actually talking about automobiles when he said this, but it perfectly captures the whole core theme of our explainer today. Think about it. How do you balance traditional, grueling agricultural labor with the rapid, literally unstoppable march of early 20th century progress? Well, as you'll see, Nicholas wasn't just sitting around reacting to the future. He was actively preparing his family for it.
So, let's kick things off with Section 1, the Golden Harvest. The setting is September 1905.
September on the farm was defined by one thing: intense, perfectly organized labor. The entire family functioned like a single, well-oiled machine. Nicholas had to hire 3 extra hands from town, and his older sons, Frank and John, jumped right in too. But it wasn't just the grown men doing the heavy lifting. 17-year-old Joseph was out there working dawn to dusk, doing a full man's share. 12-year-old Charles was hauling water, and get this, even 10-year-old young Nicholas had a vital role, keeping perfect mathematical tallies of every filled grain sack. Literally, everyone had their part to play in bringing in the harvest from the north 20 acres.
Now, the crop they were bringing in was this new variety called Turkey red wheat. It was actually recommended by Nicholas's son, Frank. And there's this great friendly tension here between father and son. See, Frank had boldly predicted a massive jump in their crop yield. So when these plump, heavy kernels started pouring out of the threshing machine, Frank was naturally feeling pretty proud of himself. But Nicholas, being the cautious pragmatist that he was, basically told him, hey, let's wait and see what the actual numbers say before anyone starts gloating. Well, the numbers came in, and they were wild. The actual yield increase was a staggering 22%. It was literally like a stream of gold pouring straight from the thresher. Nicholas actually admitted quietly to his wife Anna, later on, that Frank simply had better instincts and thought farther ahead than he did. And thanks to that foresight, it was hands down the best harvest the Brocke farm had ever seen. Moving right along to Section 2, Community and Progress. We're into October 1905 now.
So, the family rides this massive harvest momentum straight into town for the Latau County Fair in Moscow. And they absolutely dominated the competitions. They packed up the wagon and just started taking home top prizes across the board. Nicholas took first place for his orchard apples, and that famous turkey red wheat we just talked about, that took second. Meanwhile, Anna took first prize for her incredibly meticulous strawberry preserves, and second place for this beautiful quilt she'd been working on since January. It was just a huge, triumphant moment of community recognition for all their hard work.
But here's where it connects to the bigger picture of the era. While they were hanging around the fairgrounds, Nicholas and Frank were studying a display for a brand new type of combine harvester. And they both keyed in on this fascinating micro-narrative of progress. They knew the technology was way too expensive right now, but they also knew it was the undeniable future. Frank pointed out that in 10 years, literally everyone would own one. And Nicholas's response? Super simple. He just said they need to make sure they're ready when that time comes.
And Nicholas applied that exact same forward-thinking logic to his local community. During the October school board meetings, he pointed out that the kids' math books were 10 years old and literally falling apart at the seams. He actually had to argue for 3 full meetings just to get the board to spend the money to replace them. His winning argument? Education costs money, and it is simply the price of having an educated community. You have to invest today if you want to be ready for tomorrow.
Which brings us to Section 3, Thanksgiving and Distant Family, November 1905. As November brought those first hard frosts, the family's focus naturally shifted inward, putting the farm to bed and reconnecting with distant loved ones. Letters and photographs started arriving from Nicholas and Anna's daughters, mapping out this distant family motif that becomes so crucial as the winter sets in. Etta, who was living up in Spokane, Washington, sent updates on 2-year-old Frederick and baby Thelma. Amelia, way out in Gardner, Montana, wrote all about little Juanita and her thriving 5-month-old Evelyn. These letters were absolute lifelines, keeping the sprawling family deeply connected despite the harsh geographic miles between them. And that connection was felt most deeply at Thanksgiving. The farmhouse table was totally packed, 9 adults plus the kids. During the grace before the meal, Nicholas spoke this really beautiful line, talking about holding in their hearts those who couldn't be with them, meaning Etta, Amelia, and those new granddaughters he hadn't even had the chance to meet yet. It just beautifully highlighted how these deep family bonds persisted and thrived, no matter where the pioneer trails had taken everybody.
After that massive Thanksgiving dinner, the men retired to the parlor, and the conversation naturally shifted back to the future. They started talking about the increasing presence of automobiles rumbling through the dirt streets of Kendrick, and this led Frank to ask this vital, echoing question about their changing world. Are we ready?
Nicholas took that question seriously, and his answer was a resounding yes, because he had basically built a fortress of practical readiness. Think about it. They had good land and highly reliable equipment. Crucially, they carried absolutely zero debt, which is huge. They had this rare irrigation system that gave them a massive advantage over most other farms in the area. And above all, they had a relentless ironclad work ethic. So the takeaway here is that Nicholas wasn't just blindly hoping for the best. He had built a rock-solid foundation against whatever curveballs the 20th century was going to throw at them.
All right, Section 4, A Kendrick Christmas. We are into December 1905 now.
By December, the farm is completely transformed by snow, and the farmhouse is just filled with the incredible smells of cinnamon, anise, and Anna's traditional German baking. Nicholas approached Christmas the same way he approached farming, with absolute care. He thoughtfully selected highly personalized gifts in town. Joseph got a hunting knife he'd been admiring. Charles got a woodworking set perfectly matching his interest in carpentry. Young Nicholas got advanced math puzzles, pushing way past his new schoolbooks. But the most touching gift, by far, was for Anna, a deep blue wool shawl. See, Nicholas had caught her secretly admiring it in a Moscow store window all the way back in October, and he'd quietly snuck back to buy it. How great is that?
The whole holiday just unfolded perfectly, step by step. Weeks in advance, they shipped off their care packages to the daughters out in Spokane and Montana. On Christmas Eve, they attended a beautiful midnight mass at St. Mary's. Christmas morning was just chaos and laughter during the present exchange, especially when young Nicholas instantly ripped into solving his math puzzles. But the real emotional peak hit on Christmas afternoon. Special delivery letters arrived from Etta and Amelia, detailing their own Christmases, and Anna got to sit there and read them aloud to the whole room.
And finally, we arrive at Section 5, ready for the future. It is New Year's Eve.
By now, the frantic, intense energy of the autumn harvest has faded entirely, replaced by the quiet, steady ticking of the parlor mantelpiece clock. Sitting there quietly by the fire with his pipe, Nicholas took a really data-grounded assessment of his life. He was 50 years old, the absolute prime of his life. He had zero debt. He now had 7 grandchildren growing up across the West. His farm was booming, as highly productive as it had ever been. He looked around and realized, wow, his family was prospering in literally every possible direction.
As the clock ticked closer and closer to midnight, Nicholas and Anna shared this quiet little exchange. "Good year," he said. Anna agreed. Then he said, "Next year will be better." And listen, Nicholas's words here weren't just some naive, blind optimism. No, this was a deeply ingrained pioneer belief. It was the absolute certainty that if you plan carefully, if you adapt to new technologies, and if you put in the hard work, you practically guarantee yourself a better tomorrow.
As the clock finally struck midnight, they could hear the distant rifle salutes echoing from the town of Kendrick, officially welcoming the year 1906. Nicholas Brocke didn't know exactly what the 20th century was going to bring, but he knew for a fact he was ready for it. So, as we wrap up this explainer today, I want you to think about the rapid, crazy changes happening in our own world right now. Are you facing the unknowns of your own future with the same quiet, prepared readiness as Nicholas Brocke? Honestly, it's something for all of us to think about.